Hello and welcome to 10,000 Stitches podcast, episode 50. This is a weekly podcast where we talk about sock knitting. And I don't know why I'm struggling so much with the intro today, but that's how it goes. I think it's because I forgot that this is episode 50 until like just before I hit record, and I was like, oh, I was thinking about trying to do something special for episode 50 and then completely forgot, which is sort of indicative of just how my life is right now. So yeah, maybe we'll do something special for the New Year's. But until then, it's kind of like trying to get through day by day. But anyway, who am I? My name is Andy, and I like knitting socks and other things right now. I'm actually knitting a lot of things other than socks right now. If you were looking for me on the interwebs, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Ravelry as Purlbug, P-U-R-L-B-U-G. You can find my blog at thepurlbug.com. And then we have the 10,000 Stitches podcast Ravelry group. If you're looking for links to anything that I mentioned today, if you're watching this on the blog or on Ravelry, underneath the embedded video will be all the links that I can provide or find. If you're watching this on YouTube, in the description box below the video will be a link to the blog post. You can go there and find all the links below the video. I'm currently recording on Sunday, December 4th. And this episode will go up on Tuesday, December 6th. So happy St. Nick's Day. I don't know if I talked about this. I think I was recording podcasts at this time last year, but I don't know if I've talked about this before, but because I grew up very Catholic, we always did St. Nick's Day, and it's like really kind of a fun little lead up to Christmas holidays. So I really enjoy that one. So I had completely forgotten about that too. So I should make sure to remember that. Anyway, once again, I don't have any notes for today, but we'll kind of follow the usual format. We'll talk about finished objects, works in progress, what's coming up next, knit along, question of the week, and then chit chat. So yeah. In terms of finished objects, I didn't think I was going to have these to show you guys, but I do. So these are the socks that I showed last week. These are the finished socks for Wesley. And by the way, I had to turn the autofocus on my camera off because it kept weirdly trying to focus. So I apologize if I forget that it's off and hold something up and don't realize that it's not focusing. But anyway, these are socks for Wesley. The pattern, the stitch pattern I used on the top is the syncopation socks, which I've made before and really like. It's a really good sort of like staggered rib pattern that's like good for, guys who don't want anything too fancy, but you need something with like some good stretch to it. And yeah, they're just short socks, so that's a 20 row 2x2 rib cuff, and then half a pattern repeat, then a eye of partridge heel, and then I think it was 8 pattern repeats down to the toe. So yeah, I thought he would have worn them by now, but he just hasn't. That's why I was expecting not to have them to show, because I thought he would have worn them and then put them in the laundry, but hasn't happened yet. So here they are. They're done. I think when I showed them last week, I already had one of them done, and I was like working on the cuff of the other, but because they're so short, they go pretty quick. And I was in a hurry to get them finished because these were knit on US size 1s, which are 2.25 millimeter needles. They're 68 stitch socks. But I needed my size 1s for my Advent socks. So I was in a hurry to get these finished early in the week. So that's kind of why they got done so early. And the yarn is Cascade Heritage Quattro in the colorway 5664. So yeah, and I still have a lot of it left. Like I haven't weighed it, but I still have a pretty sizable ball left. So I don't know what I will do with that, but yeah, pretty awesome. So that's what is done. Now let's talk about what's in progress. And I have 4 whips right now, not counting my like big shawl, or no, I guess I actually have 5 sort of works in progress on the bed with me, not counting my big triangle shawl, which I haven't worked on in quite a while. So, or Scrapopotamus, which also hasn't been worked on in a while, but I really want to get him finished before Christmas. So hopefully by next week I'll have some progress made. But I guess let's start with the non-sock whips, and then we'll go to the sock whips. So non-sock whip 1 is my hat for Wesley that I showed last week. This is the formerly super secret project that is not so secret anymore. So I'm doing this 2x2 ribbed hat. The pattern is 2x2 ribbed for his pleasure. I'm knitting this on US size 1.5, which are a 2.5 millimeter needle. And otherwise I'm just following the pattern. So I have, I don't know, a good amount of ribbing done. And these just feel like they are like this hat feels like it's never going to end. Like it's just going to be going forever. And I can spend a bunch of time knitting on it and it feels like I'm making no progress. So this will probably be the last fingering weight yarn hat that I do for quite a while. At least that is like ribbed like this. Like I could maybe see it going faster if it was stockinette, but like with the ribbing, it drives me nuts. But I know he will like it, so it's worth it. But yeah, the yarn is by PhD Yarns. This is, I forget which base it is. I think this is the Dissertation base, which is a 100% superwash merino base. And the colorway on this one is Mad Scientist. And it's this really pretty blue. And let me grab the controls for my camera so I can actually get it up close and focus it. So it's this really pretty blue color. It's very tonal, and I really am enjoying it. So yeah, that's that. Oh, there we go. So yeah, that's that. And then I have another hat that I'm working on that I showed you guys last week. And this is the Traveling Cables hat by Pearl Soho. And I have just finished the second pattern repeat on this one. So I have like 4 inches or whatever of ribbing. Can't see the screen. 4 inches of ribbing, and then I have 2 pattern repeats of the cable pattern done. And I am doing this with Madeline Tosh, the Tosh Merino Light, being held double. And this colorway is Esoteric. And I'm knitting it with the needle sizes they call for. So a US 5 on the ribbing, which I think is a 3.75 millimeter needle, and then a US 6 on the top, which is a 4 millimeter needle. And I forgot to mention last week that I cast on an extra pattern repeat, so you can actually see that I have, well, you can't see the last one. Boop. I have 5 stitch markers on there. So I have 5 pattern repeats instead of 4 because I just knew that casting on, I think 84 stitches is what the pattern calls for, like that was not going to be enough. But when you cast on, it's increments of 21. So I just cast on an extra set of 21 to make 105 for 5 pattern repeats. And I haven't, like the problem is because these needles I'm knitting on like 16-inch needles, they're so short that I'm afraid to try it on because I'm afraid I'm going to pull stitches off the needles and drop stitches. But I'm still a little bit dubious as to how it's going to fit me, but whatevs. I'm really enjoying it. It's kind of fun. I don't know, because the needles are so short, it's a little bit tough for me to knit more than a couple rows at a time. But yeah, I've really been enjoying it. I didn't get a chance to work on it at all during the week, so all the progress that's been made has been done this weekend. But yeah, let's see, can I get it up close? So that's what it looks like up close. If you have a keen eye, you can actually see that I screwed up the very bottom row of crosses here. I did the wrong direction for the crosses, but you know what? That's okay. I think one of the important things to learn about knitting is like when you're okay with a mistake and like it's just like whatever, I'll just keep working, versus when to rip back. And I noticed that mistake like a couple rows later and I was like, I'm not gonna rip back. You know what? Nobody's gonna notice. So whatevs. I think that's an important lesson that it took me a little while to learn, like that perfect doesn't have to mean perfect, right? Like done is sometimes better than perfect. Because if you are just always trying to like be the best version of a knitter that you can possibly be, like you're always playing a losing battle because you're always going to be getting better. So the key thing is learning from your mistakes. It's like with this one, I learned, hey, color code your chart so that you don't make this mistake again. Because I think I mentioned this last week, but this pattern is not charted. It's entirely written directions. So I charted it, but I didn't color code like the different cable twists. And so now I have. And so now I haven't made that mistake again. But I don't think it'll be that noticeable, especially because, you know, you fold the brim up like this. So it's basically going to cover the bottom cable crosses anyway. So yeah, that's work in progress number 2. I am dubious as to whether I'm going to have enough yarn. This one, I think the pattern calls for 4 repeats of the cable pattern, and I'm not sure that I'm going to have enough yarn for that. So I'm thinking that if I don't, I have a Cascade Heritage in like a creamy white color that I might sub for like the crown decreases, because I was also planning with this one to put one of those like furry pom-pom puff things on the top instead of like a regular pom-pom. So I was probably going to get a white one, so I feel like that would work okay. Also, any of you guys that have used those furry pom-poms, how do you wash them? Like, do you just leave them out, like hanging out of the wash when you do it? Like, how can they be washed with everything else? Because I don't really know how to wash those. So yeah, let me know if you use them. Anyway, so that's my second hat. And now on to socks. So my first sock work in progress is my Advent socks. So I had talked about this, or well, I think I've talked about these for like the past couple weeks. Sort of my process of creating my own sock Advent calendar from like my own scraps. And last week I think I showed a picture of the nice little holder I got for all of it. And so I started these on Monday, I believe. Let me think. Sunday, Saturday, Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday. So I started them on Tuesday maybe. Because even though it wasn't December 1st yet, we are leaving for Christmas before Christmas. And so I wanted to make sure I had them done before we left. So I figured, you know what, just start a couple days early and that's fine. So this is my progress as of yesterday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then this is my little ball for today, which I haven't done yet. But yeah, I am really enjoying it. I'm doing 20 rows of each color. So the toe is Patton's Croy in the, I think, Route 66 colorway. This is Kim Dye's yarn in the Blackberry colorway. I knit blueberry waffle socks out of this one, snozberry socks out of this one. This is the Friends in Fiber BFL, and I knit my gator socks out of that one. This is some sort of opal yarn that I can never remember the colorway for. And I knit my mom's Christmas socks way back from last Christmas in this one. This is Cascade Heritage, and I don't remember the colorway, but this I knit the Viking socks out of. This is Patton's Croy, and I forget which one this is. It's the one that stripes up with like this gray and then red and brown. Yeah, and I knit a pair of socks like way back a long time ago with this one. And I'm not going to bother to link all of those in like the links, but I will link to my project page for this guy because every couple of days I have been going through and like listing like the different yarns that the stripes are and like linking to my projects that I've made with them before. So I will link to that project page if you're curious about any of these yarns. I am doing the zigzagular pattern on them, because that is a 20 row pattern repeat. So it's just, enough little something to add some interest, but it's not like too taxing to do. And I know that once I've done the chart once, then I'm done for the day. So yeah, like I said, still haven't knit on it for today, but yeah, I think even if I fall behind for a day, I'm not too concerned about being able to get caught up and stay on track. So yeah, these have been super duper fun and I'm really enjoying the process of it. And I think I mentioned it, maybe I didn't mention it last week, but I had, like in the little advent calendar thing, I had Wesley put the balls in it. So I have no idea what order they're coming in because he picked it. So that's also been kind of fun because of course I know all the yarns that are part of it, but I don't know what order they're coming up in. So yeah, pretty cool. And then my other work in progress is, my other sock work in progress is my Christmas socks. So I cast these on with my Christmas yarn that I dyed and showed off a couple weeks ago, I think. And this base is the BFL Platinum base or whatever. It's like a 75-25 BFL nylon blend. And I dyed it in Christmas colors. And I'm really loving it. And it's knitting up, because the repeats are pretty short, it's actually knitting up as pretty horizontal sort of stripes. So that's really fun, and the pattern that I'm doing is finally the Hermione's Everyday Socks pattern. Let's see if I can get this close enough to really give you guys a good look at it without bonking the microphone, which I think I just did, so I apologize for that. Okay, and zoom. So that's what the texture pattern looks like. And I did 20 rows of 2x2 ribbing on the top, and I'm just about to start the heel flap. So I did 60 rows of leg, I think, and then I will start the heel flap. But yeah, otherwise these are basically going to be sort of standard heel flap and gusset socks, and I'm super duper excited about them because I think this pattern really works well with the Hermione's Everyday Sock texture pattern. and it's Christmas socks. And so, but I'm not really in any hurry with this because between, my Advent socks, trying to keep up with doing 20 rows every day on these, plus trying to get this hat done, plus also trying to get this hat done. These are just sort of whenever I have extra time, I'm picking them up and working on them. So obviously my goal is to get them done before Christmas, but I'm not like in any big hurry to get them done. And then my only other thing that could be called a work in progress is I need to, I showed this stocking off, I think 2 weeks ago maybe, and I need to get the other one knit because I have only done this one. And so the yarn that I will be, I guess this is kind of what's coming up next. The yarn that I will be using for the other one is this cream color and then this purpley color. Oh, I forgot to mention, the Christmas socks are being knit on US size zeros, which are a 2mm needle. And then these Advent socks are getting knit on US size 1s, which are a 2.25mm needle. So yeah, the Christmas stocking, I've been knitting this out of the Loops and Threads Charisma, which is like 100% acrylic yarn. And so it will be this off-white and dark purple for the other one. And this was just made using the rye pattern. I talked about this when I talked about it before, but this is the rye pattern, which is a worsted weight sock that I have adapted for a bigger sock. And so I just cast on the largest size, did I think 10 rows of 10 garter ridges in the leg, 5 garter ridges in the foot, and then just a standard toe, fish lips kiss heel, and US size 9s, which are a 5.5mm needle. So hopefully now I have publicly shamed myself into actually getting going on the other one, because, it's not like Christmas is getting any further away, and these are kind of an important part of our Christmas decorations. And I guess while I'm on the note of what's coming up next, my next pair of socks, so like I said, the Christmas stripy socks, I'm in no real hurry to finish. Like when I get them done, I'll get them done. So my guess is that I probably will not cast on this next pair of socks until I am, casting on my travel knitting for when we go home for the holidays. And that will be using this kettle-dyed yarn from the Lancaster Yarn Shop. This was a gift from a friend of mine when they went through Amish country. And this is a 75-25 superwash nylon blend, and the colorway is Backyard Peacock, and it is this really gorgeous like tonal teal. And it's a nice sort of rusticy yarn. Like it's sort of like an opal or a regia in that it's not quite as rough as like Patton's Croy, but it's not like super duper soft either. So it seems like it'll be like a really good hard wearing yarn. And it's a little bit thicker in terms of a fingering weight yarn. And so I think this one I will use for a pair of blueberry waffle socks, because I think it will knit up into like a really good, nice, warm, thick, squishy pair of blueberry waffle socks. And we can all use another pair of those in our life, right? And blueberry waffle socks are really good ones for like traveling because, it's a little bit of a pattern. So like it keeps your mind a little bit occupied when you're knitting on like a plane or something, but it's not like something super complex. You can put it down kind of whenever and pick it back up, and it's easy to figure out where you were in it, and you don't need like a chart or anything. So yeah, that'll probably be my next project. But like I said, I'm trying to finish all of this other stuff up first. Before I get started on those. Something else that's kind of in the wings is once I'm done with these other 2 hats, I'd like to make another hat maybe using this yarn that my mom got me for my birthday. This is from Honey Gold Acres, and it's a 75-25 merino nylon blend, and it's 274 yards to 100 grams. So I think that's like a DK weight. So I might make a hat out of this. I'm not entirely sure. I have an idea that's kind of bouncing around in my head that while it's not like super new or novel, it is something that I'd like to try and get out of my head and onto a project, but we'll see about that. So, but I think I need to free up the needles that this is on before I can start that. But yeah, that's going to be that. So I'm going to take a break, let my computer save what it's been recording, get some water because I'm super thirsty now, and then we'll talk about knit along and question of the week. Rehydrated, feeling better now. So let's talk about the knit along, and then I want to kind of talk about like looking forward to next year, and that will lead into question of the week. So the knit along, we are definitely more than halfway through. By the time you guys see this, there'll be about 3.5 weeks left or so. But I think we already have like 27 finished objects, so that is awesome. I'm super excited about it, and I definitely, I feel like you guys are more excited about it too. I feel like it's really been something fun, and yeah, so I'm excited to see things continue to roll in. And I was going to dye up yarn this weekend as a prize. I have an idea in my head of what I want to dye up, and I was going to do it this weekend. And then my dye pot, which you guys maybe would have seen if you saw my video or if you saw the episode where I was dyeing yarn, it's also my big cooking pot, and it is being used this weekend for making a bunch of soup. So no dyeing, but hopefully I'll get that done during the week so I have it to show you guys next week, because if it comes out the way that I imagine it in my head, it's going to be magnificent, and I'm super excited about it. Anyway, so yeah, so then moving forward, right? So I've gotten a question or two about like what kind of the plan is for next year. And I've also been thinking about this a little bit, like both, you know, kind of like life in general, you know, like the whole New Year's resolutions thing, as well as like knitting and this podcast and all of that. So I definitely will be continuing into 2017. I also think I'm going to loosen up a little bit and be more kind of aware of like sort of the cycles of my life, and not be hesitant to say like, oh, this month, guys, I'm only going to do it bi-weekly or something like that. You know, I like posting weekly, but I also feel like there are times when posting weekly just isn't what works. And so I'd rather just sort of have that freedom to say like, hey, for like the next, you know, however many weeks, we're only going to do it every other week or something like that. But I'm hoping that won't happen too much. But it will still be coming out. And I'm thinking that for next year, kind of the theme that I want to go with is, instead of doing only socks, right? Because this year the goal was really socks, and I set out to knit 50 pairs. I'm not going to knit 50 pairs. I think I counted it up, and I think that since roughly this time last year, which was kind of when I started knitting socks again, I think I maybe have knit a total of like 40 pairs. So maybe if I, you know, get the other ones wrapped up, I will maybe have like 40 to 45 pairs in 2016. But, you know, that's still pretty good. Like, I don't regret that, what I've done, or like, I'm not sad that I didn't hit 50, because like I still got done a lot more than I would have otherwise. So that's pretty awesome. And I've kind of really been enjoying, you know, knitting other things. You know, like knitting hats and stuff like that. Like, that's been really fun, and it's something that I would like to do more in 2017. So my thoughts for 2017 are that instead of, you know, focusing on socks, I want to kind of open it up, and I was thinking that my general theme for the year might be one skein projects, right? Because that includes socks. It also includes hats. It includes little like shawlettes or like little cowls. It includes, you know, kind of chunky things like this guy, or like, you know, chunky like slipper socks. It includes like mittens, little toys, like there's a lot involved in one skein projects. And, you know, I tend to be one of those people who only wants to buy a skein of yarn at a time. You know, like purchasing a sweater quantity of yarn is a big commitment, and I just don't feel like I'm there yet. Although I do plan to try and knit my first sweater in 2017. I found a pattern that I think is exactly what I'm looking for, but that's for later, right? Most of what I do is one skein sort of stuff. And that's just, you know, part of it's like a storage thing. Like I've told you guys before, I have a teeny tiny apartment. I don't have room for multiple sweaters quantities worth of yarn. And, you know, so I'd rather buy one skein at a time. Plus, if I'm buying like indie dyed yarn, that stuff's expensive, right? So buying more than one $30 skein of yarn at a time gets expensive, and that's just not a good, for me right now, that's not a good use of my money. So yeah, so I was thinking that next year maybe my theme would be one skein projects. And, you know, and of course for you guys that also opens it up too, right? It opens it up to different weights of yarn, different sorts of projects, while still retaining what we were doing before, right? Socks, still totally welcome. So I was thinking that would kind of be the plan. in terms of how that will work with like the podcast and like the knit-alongs and stuff, because I still want to keep doing knit-alongs because I really enjoy that. I'm not quite sure how I want to do that, and that's kind of leads into my question of the week, right? So I'm thinking one way I could do it is just say, okay, the general theme for 2017 is one skein projects, and I will probably again do like 6, knit-alongs, like 2-month chunks. So I could just say like, okay, well, this is knit-along number 1, January through February, as long as it fits this one skein project thing, put it in the FO thread, and we'll basically every 2 months we'll sort of draw for a knit-along. And then, in that, like, then it kind of doesn't have any sort of a theme or anything. It's just kind of a general sort of knit-along. So I could do it that way. The other thing I could think of doing is doing it actually very similar to how I did the sock ones, right? Where, for 2 months we focus on a specific technique. So, maybe again we do 2 months of cables, but now, cables don't have to be just socks, right? You could do a cabled cowl, or you could do a cabled hat, or, something like that. Or you could do cabled socks. Because like, don't get me wrong, I'm going to be doing a lot of socks still. Like, I have a lot of sock yarn. I really enjoy buying sock yarn. I enjoy dyeing sock yarn. So like, most of what I'll be doing is still socks. Like, most of the stuff in my queue is still socks. But, it opens it up to other things, right? So we could do like another sort of like ribbed knit-along, where again, you could make socks or a hat or mittens or, a scarf, whatever. So those are kind of the 2 options that I see right now, is either sort of a very general open knit-along where just, every 2 months we, close the old thread, open a new thread, and it's just kind of a free-for-all, or we continue to stick with sort of like themed chunks of time, but now it's just open to more different kinds of projects. So that's kind of the question of the week. What would you prefer? I'm not saying that I'm going to go with what majority, votes for, but I just would like some feedback. Like, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think would inspire you to knit more? Right? Like, I know for me, kind of having the fire under my butt of like, well, this is cables, month or whatever, kind of has gotten me to explore more things and like, expand my boundaries a little bit. Versus just like knit whatever you want, because then I tend to knit the same things a lot. So let me know what you guys think. I'm curious about it. But yeah, that's my question of the week. And I guess if you're only here for the knitting, thank you very much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next week. Otherwise, I can do some chit chat. I think I've had a pretty boring week, so I'm not entirely sure it'll be a super long chit chat. But yeah, if you're interested in that, let's do that. Okay, so this past week, like I said, I feel like it's been really boring, so I don't know how long this is going to be. We'll see if I can remember all the things that I want to talk about. But I guess the major one is this stuff in the background here. So I know that last week I put in a picture of our Christmas tree, I think, and I don't know that you could actually see it in that picture, but I think that when I put the lights up in our kitchen originally, I had put a picture in. But kind of what I did out in our kitchen living room area is I put a bunch of those like little 3M hooks on the ceiling, and then I kind of just strung the lights up on the ceiling. And originally these purpley pinky lights were out there for Halloween, and then when we went and got a bunch of our Christmas decorations, I got these blue and white lights that are now hanging out there. And then of course these ones were just, wadded up in a pile, and I didn't know what to do with them, but I had extra hooks. And I was like, I should put them back here, because it's really nice to like have them on kind of like at night, because like a lot of people, I, will sometimes like lay in bed and watch like a YouTube video or something before I try and go to sleep, which I know is horrible for you, but I do it anyway. But like these are nice because then I can like turn off like the room lights, but I can have them on so that it's not completely dark or something. And I just kind of like them, right? Like I just think they're kind of cute, and they provide a little bit of visual distraction in the background for this versus just like a plain white wall. So yeah, that's that. What else did we do this week? I had to give a presentation for my last project in my stats class, which, I mean, went fine. We were like the first group to present. So it was nice because then like like, it's not even like the bar was set low. There just was no bar, right? Like, nobody knew what to expect. So I was like, this is great. You know, going first, I think, for those kinds of things is always really good, because then, like, no one has anything to compare you to, right? You're neither bad nor good because no one else has done it yet. So we did that, got that out of the way. We got our last test, which is a take-home test, which I'm pretty sure is due this next Wednesday, and I need to get my butt moving on. I actually brought it home with me to work on, and I haven't worked on it yet, but I need to do that. But I wanted to get this filmed first while I still had some daylight. But yeah, and as soon as that's done, then I'm free from that class. And what else? Otherwise, like, things were just kind of business as usual, you know, teaching and doing all that stuff and work. I'm really trying to think of what we even did. I know that on Friday night, I think we went up to the mall, which I think there's like 2 malls in Richmond. The one we go to is like not at all close to us. It's kind of a drive to get to, and it would be shorter if we took the interstate, but we just don't like to drive on the interstate for various reasons because it's horrible. But yeah, so like we don't go up there a ton, but we wanted to go up because we had nothing else to do Friday night, and like I know that they decorate it, you know, like pretty intensely for Christmas. And so I wanted to go up and see the Christmas decorations before it got too cold to want to be outside, because it's an outdoor mall. And because I knew that if we waited too long, we would just not get around to it and then miss it. So I think I took a picture of like the big, huge Christmas tree that they have. So if I remember, I will try and put that in here. It's not a great picture, but because it was dark and, you know, my phone couldn't focus very well, but it might give you an idea of like how big this Christmas tree is. But yeah, we did that, and that was really fun. You know, we got Starbucks and walked around with our Starbucks and, you know, enjoyed the Christmas decorations and all of that. And then we actually went back up there yesterday, which was a disaster. Like, going up on Friday was fine. Like, we didn't have any problem trying to get parking or anything. We went up yesterday, and it was just... To truly describe it, I'd have to use words that I don't like to use when I'm recording, but so if you have a good imagination, that's what it was. But it was just a disaster. Just so much traffic, and like this mall is just really poorly laid out because, like, you know, they have these parking lots, but not all of the parking lots are like sort of like contained, I guess is maybe the word I would use for it, right? Because like what I'm used to with a parking lot, especially like at a mall, is right, you turn off the main road, or, you know, the road that goes around the mall, whatever, right, into the parking lot. But then there's only like 1 or 2 entrances or exits from the parking lot back to the main road, right? Otherwise, like, you get to the end of an aisle and you turn around and you're still in the parking lot, right? Versus this mall, like, some of the parking lots are like that, but some of them, it's like you go down an aisle and then all of a sudden you're back at the road again. And now, you know, you have to, like, if you want to make a left turn, now you have to fight oncoming traffic to make a left turn just to get to the next aisle of the parking lot. So it was just a disaster, and it was just so busy, and they don't have enough parking, and people were just driving like crazy people. So it just kind of ruined it for us. And we were up there because Wesley and I wanted to look for some clothes. Neither of us really enjoy clothes shopping because we're both sort of weird sizes. Like, Wesley has the problem where he's short, and so like his size is typically not carried in stores. Like, you can get it like online, but, you know, that means he can't try it on before he buys it. So he has that problem. I have the problem where I'm just like too tall. So it's like, you know, again, my sizes are available online. I can order tall sizes, but sometimes I just want to go to a store and try it on. So like, I was looking for t-shirts, and just, you know, I don't want to spend $20 a shirt for t-shirts, and otherwise, like, they're all just too short. Like, I have a very long torso, and like, I don't enjoy my shirts being too short, and so I just couldn't find anything that was long enough and cost efficient. And Wesley was looking for like button-down shirts, and he couldn't find anything that wasn't just like super cheap. And the problem with like super cheap shirts is they don't fit right. Like, we went to H&M and, you know, tried on some of their shirts, and like his problem was that like, it was like, okay, well, it's weirdly like baggy in the arms and weirdly baggy here, but super tight here. It was just kind of a disaster. And like, this was after the whole parking fiasco, so we were just totally over it. And then we went to like the Apple store because both of us have pretty old computers. Like my computer is, I think it's a 2012 MacBook Pro. His computer is like a 2011 MacBook Pro. And so, you know, we're both dealing with computers that are getting old, and like his computer especially is starting to like just not want to work very well sometimes. Like sometimes it'll just shut down or something. My computer is mostly fine, but like it can't handle some things. Like I record these videos at 720p while the camera can record at 1080p, but my computer can't handle recording at 1080p. So like that's really frustrating. And of course we have our nice big desktop, but like Wesley takes his computer to school and does a lot of his schoolwork on his, and so it doesn't help also that it's very heavy. So anyway, so we went to the Apple store because we were both kind of, you know, we're both kind of passively in the market for new computers, and we just kind of wanted to see what was out there. And that was of course just a disaster too, because the Apple store is just always too busy. And we had both been thinking, well, maybe iPads, maybe we could get by with iPads. And it just seems more and more like that's not going to be the case. And it just seems like Apple just never fails to disappoint us because, you know, like you look at like the new MacBook Pros and stuff, and they got rid of like the USB ports. And I know they have like the weird USB-C or whatever ports, but it's like, yeah, but all my stuff is USB ports, you know, like both my camera and my microphone both plug into the USB. So it's like, well, now I have to have a gazillion adapters, and I don't know. So that was just kind of really annoying because it was like, why Apple? Why? Like we're prepared to go all in on you and you just continue to disappoint us. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, so we did that and then came home, and I'm trying to think of what else we did yesterday. I think the rest of yesterday was kind of a lazy day. Today I had to run into work to do something that absolutely had to be done before tomorrow. And like I said, I've been making soup all day. I made a really, really good like mushroom wild rice soup this morning, which I actually had some of it for lunch. I'm making a whole bunch of soups because kind of my goal is to like make enough that I like have lunches for all of December, right? Like I can just grab a bag of soup and that's my lunch. Because I really just enjoy eating soup for lunch, and I really get kind of sick of like trying to think of lunch or like come up with lunch ideas. So I was like, you know what? Soups, that's fine. So I made that. I have like a ham and beans soup that's in the crock pot right now that I thought would be ready by lunchtime today, and it was not. So I'm letting that continue to cook, and I have I think like a sausage and like brown rice or wild rice soup that I want to make, and then like maybe a chicken quinoa soup, and then like a chicken wild rice soup for me and Wesley, because the wild rice soup I made, I don't know if I said it, but it was mushroom and he will not eat mushrooms. So but yeah, so I have a lot of cooking left to do today, and like I said, I have to get working on that test, and I would like to tidy up the apartment a little bit because, you know, things get busy and the apartment gets messy, and I don't like that. So, but yeah, I think that's about it. Like, I feel like my life is so boring lately, but that's just how it goes sometimes. But yeah, I think that's going to be it. I'm going to go probably get some more soup started, and, you know, because the nice thing about that is I can kind of just let it sit on the stove and bubble away while I do other things. So I should probably get that started sooner rather than later so that I can, you know, utilize the time while that's cooking and not be spending all day slaving over the stove. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for me. Thanks very much for watching, and sorry I didn't do anything very special for episode 50. Like I said, maybe I'll try to plan like a going into 2017 with a blast sort of thing or something, but we'll see. I already know that I am probably not going to be putting out an episode the week after Christmas, I think, because I forget exactly how the calendar works for that, but I think based on the time that I will be home, it's not going to be very good for me to put out an episode then. So yeah, like just really, really far in the future, heads up, the 27th, there will probably not be an episode, so what can you do? Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me. I'm getting rambly. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.